But we're going to start the show off with Nikki Taylor, who's here right now, joining us here at the desk. Nikki, there you are. See, I look up there. I know you're over here, but I'm looking up
But
there
you're looking over
to
there.
see you on the monitor.
Oh, and look, we're on the same black background. That's great.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Yeah, can I ask a real quick question?
You absolutely can.
To you and maybe you. Why is it green? It's green back here, but it's black. Oh, it's
Black.
secret. Oh, it's black. Okay.
It's a secret.
Oh, it's a secret.
But I have the same confusion.
Okay.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, and Nikki Taylor's a parent educator at the Oakville Parent and Child Center, and it's great to have you here, Nikki.
Great to be here. Thanks.
So there's a lot to talk about. I know you were on just before liquid lunch talking about all that stuff, but first of all, let's just get a little before we get into all the issues around parenting, which are phenomenal. But the Oakville Parent and Child Center, what is it exactly?
The Oakville Parent Child Center is a family resource center, registered charity in Oakville that supports parents and children and families with children 0 to 6. So we have lots of activities, lots of support, and things like that.
Is it a daycare center?
No.
Because, you know, if I'm a parent, I'm thinking, I need that kind of support.
Yes. The absent support. Yes, absent support is good. And we do a little bit of that. We do have a nursery school program, but we don't do full-day daycare. We have been asked to do it, but we don't do it. So there is a miscommunication with our name. I think people get confused.
Well, see, that's why I'm asking the question.
Thank you so
just
much.
To clarify
That's
that.
great. So no, we're a family, what's called a family resource center.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Danny.
So the kids come in for like how long?
We have programs that range anywhere from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours, mostly. So parents can come with their children and hang out and play and just drop-in programs where there's no registration.
Right.
Or they can come and they register in advance, of course, and they come for music programs or math programs or other
even
types
yoga maybe for kids?
Yeah, we do Zumba for parents and kids.
Zumba.
It's hilarious. We have all these little babies strapped on with their strappy things. My kids are older. I don't know what they're called anymore. And and they do Zumba classes. So these little babies are bouncing around, and the parents are all getting fit and hot. And it's great. Yeah. So we do lots of things like that.
Okay, that's cool. So now, I remember when I was a kid, they didn't have parent and child centers.
How old are you? Oakville Parent Child Center has been around for 30 years, so they may have, but you didn't know. Because you got to be, what, 25, 28?
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
See, I understand your difficulties because I have these rings. These are the immortality rings. They reverse the aging process, so it's probably
working.
Difficult for you to
Terrible.
say how old I really am. But, but I mean, that's one of the things you were talking about is that parenting is different now, right? And we were having some great conversations before the show about that. But
it's very different. What used to work doesn't seem to work so well anymore. I think there's a lot of different reasons for it.
What doesn't work?
Spanking. We won't go too far into that. We live in a very different world, so parents don't have the supports they had before, so parents are feeling quite isolated. So the whole neighborhood idea of, we'd watch each other's children and things like that, that doesn't work anymore. Because
it was like that.
It was like that.
Yeah.
Get up, have breakfast, go play, come back when your mother called you. When street lights come on, you come back again.
Well, the street lights, I had a problem with that.
Did you?
Because we had one kid that did have to go in by the street lights, but in the winter, that's like at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And
that sucks.
Yeah, that's what I grew up.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Bathurst and Lawrence area, which wasn't the prettiest area, it was like that. We had this broken down pool, like the blow up thing.
Yep.
And all the kids came from around the area and swim in this silly little pool,
That's
including
what it was
a
like.
dog.
Yeah.
And then mom came with the lemonades and stuff.
Of
my
course.
Yeah.
That's
and
what it was like.
the parents called and they went.
Everybody
or
went home.
Someone else's house or something.
Yeah.
My parents used to be all drinking out in the backyard.
Yeah.
And us kids would be making, a lot of noise, and they'd go, "Why don't you kids go out and play on the freeway?" And back in those days, you could go out and play on the freeway.
But at least there were people hanging around the kids. I mean, everybody's isolated now. So, even those kinds of things, drinking or not, it just doesn't happen anymore. So children are very structured. They have to, everybody's going to things all the time. And so it's a very different childhood.
Yeah, just, and I want to get into that a little bit, but just one more story. I have a friend who's grew up around Wilson in Bathurst, and when he was a kid, from the age of 9, he would just, after school, he would go.
Yep.
He would go downtown and hang out. And he ended up being a newspaper carrier in Yorkville back in the hippie days.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
No.
but your type of hangout wasn't hanging out in the mall. He was doing something productive. He was going a different kind of hangout than that. The kids didn't know what to do with themselves. They're 12 to
Yeah, he had something to
15
do.
years of
He
age.
had a
hanging out in the mall.
life that he was doing, and he
Yeah.
was directing it himself from the age of
Right.
9.
Yeah.
Yep.
And his parents were all okay with that, and he never had any, he's
Yeah.
he's fine, nothing bad
Parents,
ever happened to
parents
him.
feel now like the world isn't a safe place. And I mean, statistically, and I don't know what the statistics are, but statistically, they're saying that it really is as safe or safer now. But the parents raising young children now do not feel that way.
I know.
Everything, there's danger lurking around every corner, and there's pedophiles. And, well, those people have always been around, and there's always been danger, So I don't think it's a whole lot more dangerous. I think we just know more now because of all the media and
Well, I
the
think part of it, there was a
accessibility.
comfort level before because people were less mobile before.
Yeah.
And so people lived in neighborhoods, and they tended to stay in those neighborhoods. So you tended to get to know.
And you
Like,
watched each other's kids, and you
and-
disciplined each other's kids. Yeah.
And I remember,
Yeah.
I can still I knew the name of the family in every house on our street, and it was a long street,
Yeah.
And that kind of thing just doesn't, for some reason.
Not anymore.
So, but statistically, it is probably as safe, maybe even safer than
Yep.
it used to be. But you were mentioning that the kids don't play like they used to play, and that
They-
everything is structured,
Yep.
and kids are suffering as a result. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
They are. I think children learn so much about life through free play. And we've lost the art of free play, which is just allowing children to be children, to guide their own activities, to engage and disengage when they want to lead play and things like that. And well, like we've just talked about,
Yeah.
that whole get out of the house, that's free play. Pick up a baseball and go to the park and do what you
Right.
need to do. But now, generally speaking, children are extremely structured. So all play is not created equal. Children who are busy in activities are struggling and suffering because they're not having that need for being directive of their own life and things. Everything is, and they're waiting in lines, and they're
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff.
I just want I'm leading into something here. I was studying in social anthropology in my forgettable years in university. But it was a good course. It was a good teacher. She was great.
Yep.
About, we were studying obviously animals, more of the other variety, the apes or whatever. I looked at myself in the mirror. I thought I look a little bit like, well, anyways.
No.
And the play was very important. That was part of their development.
For the apes.
For the apes. And
It
then
still
they
is.
figured also the ape man and then man, woman, everybody else.
Yep.
And how they learn so much in terms of relating to each other.
Yeah.
I see these very, crazy people bring their kids to hockey, and they're like 5 years of age. Is that the example of that structure?
That's part of it, yeah.
Well, hockey always had to be.
It's Canada.
Organized hockey
Yeah,
was
but
always structured,
Yeah.
right?
But
Yeah.
it's become, the whole sports thing has become obsessive.
Yeah, it's like
People-
stage parent thing or
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah,
like they
and I
got to
mean,
win now.
These parents are ballistic. I
Oh,
mean, they're
unbelievable.
screaming and yelling, and they're
Yeah.
profane, and they're cursing at these kids, and that
Yeah.
puts a lot of stress on children, and affects their performance. I
Yeah.
have a documentary that I'm using in a class that I'm teaching on play.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach parents how to play with their kids. How
Yeah.
ironic is that? And in this documentary, it talks about how the children who are in these very structured competitive sports, only the top 5% of those kids get to play. The rest of the kids, these parents are paying a fortune to have their kids sit on the bench. Yet when they put these kids, the same team, into a pickup game of something, those children who don't have the exceptional skills are the ones that actually take over as the leaders and know what to do.
Well-
Whereas the other kids, if they're not directed and they're not told by a coach, go here, go there, do this, do that, when it's up to them, they have no clue what to do.
That's really interesting because, you talked about that the kids are suffering as a result of
Yeah.
the structured play. And when you, and I think you're touching on it there, where you let them go into an unstructured environment, the kids find out themselves.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we knew in our neighborhood, we would play sports on our own, but we knew because the people, okay, this guy's the quarterback because he's
'Cause
got
'cause he
all the
can
right
be.
skills for that, and,
Yeah.
and everybody found their own role,
Right.
Yeah.
And what else are kids like? How do you see that kids are losing out as a result of this? So what are they not Like, what are they going to be like when they're adults and they've missed out on this? What kind of people are they going to be?
I'm a little scared, actually. I think they, in terms of decision making and relationship skills and conflict resolution, creativity, the lack of being able to be creative and boredom is a huge issue. These kids are so structured all the time. What happens is when somebody isn't there to give them the structure, then they're bored because they've never had the opportunity or developed the skills to be able to figure out something to do when there's nothing to do. I think technology plays a piece of that too, but I think the more we sort of delegate and relegate what children are going to do all the time, we take away a lot of those things.
Well, then you got big business, like the Xbox, and whereas are offering the wrong kind of thing to fill in that don't know what to do, because we don't have the arcade anymore, like the arcade in the fair or whatever.
At least they went out then, and then they were with other people. Now they're locked in their rooms.
But maybe tell me if this makes sense. I go to a yoga class and I see these same people. This is the high-end yoga class where it's very expensive.
Yep.
And people don't talk to each other getting in. They're in the rush, out of my way. It's like very anti-yogish. And then they sit in their mat and they look like very sad, I don't know what to do, kind of look. And then the teacher comes and leads them, and he does everything the teacher does, which is not right for their body because they're not flexible yet to do that move. And they're way out of alignment. And I've asked a few of them after class, just for conversation. Excuse me, I'm just wondering, you're here all the time. Do you ever do the yoga at home, like when you don't have the time? Like, oh no, I can't do that. I wouldn't
know what to do.
I need to be pushed.
Yep.
Which means they don't know what to do. I mean, sure they do.
Yep. Yeah, they do. They go to class every week or a couple times a week. They figure it out, right? Yeah. So yeah, the lack of motivation is another piece of it for sure, where, the more we do for kids and decide for kids, then the more problematic it becomes.
So this leads into another question. I'll get back to the kids and the parents of today, which are the same ones that I met going to yoga class.
Those are the yoga ones,
the yoga ones. A-type, sort of suppressed A-type personality. Well, kind of A-type personality, but they're kind of pretend that they're low-key. At the Forest Hill Community Center, the parents, I see these parents very aggressive, bringing their kids. They park their vans everywhere where you can't drive through because they figure they have to, because they got to bring their kids. They have the right to bring their kids to the hockey thing.
Absolutely.
On the islands, of the Barrie on Chaplin Crescent. And it sounds like they're busy bragging about how accomplished their kids are while the kids are playing hockey. And then how do you communicate to them let's look another perspective. Maybe give the kid more time. Because these people are on such an ego trip,
obsessed.
Or they're on an obsession. How do you undress that?
Yeah, and sometimes it is more about them. They didn't get to do things, so they're going to live vicariously through their children. More of them, I believe, I prefer to look at the positive side of things, but I think more parents truly believe that they are doing what's best in building a successful life for their children. So when I've got them when they're
but are they gearing for MBA school when it's not everyone's to be MBA or corporate lawyers? I mean, what's going on?
I think that's part of the drive, is they feel like, particularly the sports thing, is very much a sort of a trail into some of those programs.
Yeah.
What I try and talk to with parents, because I'm fortunate because I get them young, so I get them before sometimes they're into this obsessive world. And I talk a lot about attachment and what kids need, because what kids need hasn't changed much from when we grew up.
Right.
They still need similar things around time and attention. You can't fast track children, and I think in our world we're trying very hard to fast track them and make them grow up.
Should we send them all to Hugh Riley's house? Because
perhaps,
maybe.
What does Hugh Riley's house consist of?
Well,
what
I was
going to
suggest. I tell you, I was going to suggest something different, Daniel. Why doesn't the state raise all children?
The state, because then we'd really be in a state.
Right? Then you could have a government job.
That's right.
You could be doing
I could be doing.
You could be
Mayor Ford
doing it right for these kids.
Yeah, I think the state does enough. We need some balance, so I think there's
I'm
lots
optimistic
of
that in the future the state will be able to
just
provide the structure that these kids are going to need, perhaps by spying on their neighbors.
That's right. Perhaps.
But did you finish
putting them on the
getting
internet?
back to the mundane? Were you finished with what you were saying over?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because that's a challenge. That is such a challenge. Can you give me examples, some tricks that you have to get them to, or you just talk honestly to them, or what?
I do lots of reading so that parents don't have time to read books. So now that my kids are grown, I have lots of time to read. So I try and keep up on some of the stuff that's going on. And I really try and speak from the child's voice, because parents have lost the ability to trust instincts. So I really work very hard to try and get parents to believe in their instincts again, because they're usually right. And most parents who are driving their kids around going crazy, their instincts are saying this isn't right, but they're suppressing that and they're not listening to it, and they're saying, well, but I have to do this.
But do you remind them that you could be, this is what you just told me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that this is not necessarily the pathway to success, and that not every child is going to be an MBA or a lawyer or, in the top 5% and a professional athlete. Like, let's be real.
I have something to share with you. My brother-in-law, wonderful guy, a business graduate, while working full-time, went to school, one of those guys. He finds, he runs over business systems over a lot of people. Anytime an MBA comes in, a graduate comes in, it's like, I get them out of my department kind of thing, because it's a combination of ego plus they don't know what they're doing and just practical things. Yeah. So sometimes they're missed the boat on certain, like there's the creativity. They lost the creativity in business, some of them. They learn all these rules.
And there's so many MBAs now, is my sense. Like it's becoming a very common degree, so it's not as special as it used to be. Yeah. So now what? Like we have to go to PhDs and, so it's just getting a little crazy.
Plus you still have to learn how to do something real. Even if you've got your MBA.
Yeah, and be creative and be able to work when something isn't the planned way that it goes.
Exactly.
And all that kind of stuff. So I don't think we're doing them any favors.
Yeah.
So.
What are there certain new programs that are coming in? Is it like an hour meeting with the parents? How does this work? Like you have all these things.
Most of my parenting classes are 2 hours.
Okay.
So we hang out for a couple of hours.
And you have a few people or one parent? Or
I do one-on-one consultations. Okay. I also do phone help. The classes, it's usually anywhere between about 6 and 20 to 22 parents.
You can't have more than that, really.
I don't like to lecture, so it's...
You're going to ask questions, et cetera.
Yep. Yeah, and we work through, case studies and scenarios, and there's a lot of sharing, so a lot of parents getting experience and advice from each other, because they all have great skills. Yeah. They don't believe it, which is part of my job, is to convince them.
Because you talk about the parents don't have the intuition anymore, just to trust their gut.
They don't.
And I think that's not just a parenting problem. It's like people have lost their intuition for everything. Yep. They're living their lives as if I have to do this because I have to do this.
Because I have to do it.
Because somebody else told me I have to.
It. Yeah.
Right? It's not me directing it.
Yep.
On the other hand, I think that's that's one of the big problems with the culture as a whole.
Yeah.
Right? On the other hand, there's a lot of people out there that are really trying to rediscover their intuition.
Yes.
And a lot of young people, right, are saying, they're following their heart or whatever, literally.
Yeah. Well, right? I think you just hit on a point there, Hugh. Hard to believe, but no, really, I think it was good. Is that I think based on Miguel Ruiz's books, there was very good, and we had the son here.
Actually, he was here last Friday.
Who, the actual man?
Yeah, Miguel Ruiz was actually here last Friday.
Oh my God! I know. I like that. Nikki Hayes got him in or something, or whatever. Anyways,
not Nikki Hayes.
But anyways, there's the 4 agreements and the 5th agreement, and it's all about not dictating what your plans are based on other people's rules or wants or needs. You do it what you want for yourself. Of course, you're within the realm of interdependency. If you're a parent, obviously, you're doing stuff for the kids. But there's going to be always, no matter how busy the schedule is, varying, even if it's for 10 minutes, to write that book you wanted to write, or to do some things within the house to show the kids something that you're interested in. Are you interested in this also? I don't want to force you. Yeah. So the parent might be an artist or something.
Absolutely.
And the kids might pick up on it.
Parents are losing themselves in parenting. They're so into their children that they do lose themselves, and that's part of the isolation. They don't have the same interests. They don't have the same friends if their friends haven't had children. They lose all the connections at work often, which was a big piece of their life and part of who they were. So there's all of that kind of stuff. But absolutely, they need to be human. Right.
But I'm also referring to, and I totally with you on that. But I also think that the parent, even if they're trying to do the right thing with the kids, they could have taken them to somewhere where like to the Art Gallery of Ontario, let's say. Yeah. But no, they got it. Some of them say, "Oh, I can't take them to see Chagall because the so-and-sos want them to go to the certain area of the ball game or something when you don't really want to do it, but you'll take them.
But they feel
and that's
pressure.
okay, but maybe too much of that one thing as opposed to a mix of things.
Yeah. And I talk a lot with parents about balance.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong answer, and
Right.
it's about balance. It's finding, little bits of everything to give you a full and balanced life. And I feel like lots of us are not very well balanced.
Man, it's almost like you're teaching these parents, but really they should just unlearn everything,
Yeah, they have to stop looking at so much information, first of all, because I think that takes away their intuition. And there's a lot of conflicting information. It's like anything in research. I think you can find something in research that will support whatever stance you want to take.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do. They have to unlearn some of the things that they've created for themselves in terms of pressuring themselves and, pressuring their children and that kind of thing.
So how did you get to be so wise that you can be doing this kind of work?
I worked in the childcare field for about 22 years, so I've been doing parent education for 10. My biggest qualification is my 3 kids. So I have a 17-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 26-year-old, and a couple of grandkids. So they're my do-overs. So all the things that I didn't know when I was, because I didn't know this stuff. So when I learned stuff that I didn't or couldn't do with my own kids, I figure I can practice on my grandchildren now.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's great.
yeah.
Any final thoughts you want to leave us with today?
Parents are doing the best they can, and they just need to keep plugging away at it. And
like you say, they need some support, and where
Absolutely.
that informal community support didn't exist, you guys are there.
We are there.
Oakville Parent and Child Center to give them that kind of support.
I'm just curious, do some of your grandchildren, what they're around 6, 5?
3 and 9 months.
Well, the
So I have 2 of
3-year-old,
them.
does she or he give you advice sometimes on things?
She
I'm just
teaches
curious.
me a lot.
Does she?
Absolutely, she teaches
It's
me
amazing
a
how
lot.
much they think they. Well, they do. They do know. They know from a different way
Yeah.
from you.
Yep.
And
Yeah, they do.
yeah.
And we need to get better at listening to children's voices, because
Yeah.
they do have a voice.
We got to
and
respect them as people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, Nikki, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in and having this conversation today.
Great opportunity.
We could probably keep talking all day because it's an issue.
I
that's-
could. I don't know
Yeah.
about you guys.
We could. Are you kidding?
I like to
We're
talk.
Kids we're kids at heart, Hugh, aren't we?
Of course
We're
we are.
kids.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, okay, Nikki Taylor, thank you for coming in. And
Thank you.
what's the website if people want to? Because like you say, get people coming in the door.
Come in the door and check us out. It's www.op-cc.ca.
But you're out in Oakville, though.
We are in Oakville.
And what's
So-
your physical location? What's
We
the
are
address?
on the 461 North Service Road West.
North
anybody can come.
Service Road West,
Yeah.
and that's west of Trafalgar. Is Trafalgar
Yes.
the dividing line?
Trafalgar seems to be the dividing line, yeah.
All right.
Do they not have something like this in?
There are early years centers across the province, which is a component of what we do. So
Right.
Toronto has early years centers, Mississauga has early years centers. They're not necessarily the same,
Uh-huh.
so they all have different services
So
based
you'll
on their
get people
community.
from Toronto coming over to your place.
If they want to come, yeah. I had one mom who came 4 times a week for about 8-10 months from Brampton, because she liked what we did, and
Yeah.
she couldn't find what she needed in Brampton, so she came out 4 times a
Well,
week and drove.
If Russell Peters, when he was a kid, if he could have been saved if he came down there from
There we go.
Brampton,
I'm not sure he needs saving. I
Yeah.
kind of like him.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Nikki, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
op-cc.ca. So we're going to take a little break, Dan,
Okay.
and we're going to come back, I think, with Catherine McQuaid right after this. As Liquid Lunch continues on a Friday, we'll be right back.
There's a man who's living in my dream. He's watching this and telling me I'm ruining everything. There's a little ghost in the hall. She waits for me to come late at night. I